How many dresses does a woman need to become a legend? In Grace Kelly's case, perhaps only 10. 10 dresses that not only made fashion history, but also marked the most important moments of her life. With one, she conquered Hollywood. With another, she made millions of women dream. One hid a secret that remained hidden for nearly 50 years, and another changed her destiny forever. Welcome to Gisela'sStyleRoyal. Today, we'll discover Grace Kelly's 10 most beautiful and iconic dresses, from her years as a Hollywood star to the moment the entire world fell under the spell of her elegance. But before we begin, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with that friend who loves royalty, elegance, and classic glamour. And now, let's begin. Position 10. The fairy tale floral dress. At number 10, we find one of the most charming and romantic dresses Grace Kelly ever wore, before she became a princess. A floral taffeta design with a full skirt and a flawless silhouette, simple in its origin, but destined to change history. Because the real magic of this dress wasn't in the label, it was in the story hidden behind it. On May 6, 1955, Grace traveled to the Cannes Film Festival, where Paris Match magazine had arranged a photo session with Prince Rainier of Monaco. But that day, nothing went as planned. A workers' strike had cut off electricity across much of the city. The hairdryer, the iron, nothing worked. Grace's hair was damp, her clothes wrinkled. So she chose this floral dress instead. Its fabric naturally resistant to wrinkles, made from a McCall's sewing pattern, and completed the look with fresh flowers in her hair. That improvised choice, made in mere minutes, would end up changing her life forever. No one could have imagined that such a simple decision would mark the beginning of one of the most celebrated love stories of the 20th century. After that meeting, Grace and Rainier began a quiet correspondence, one that would culminate almost a year later in the unforgettable royal wedding of 1956. But if this dress marked the beginning of Grace Kelly's fairy tale, the next one made millions of women dream of walking down the aisle as a true princess. Position 9. The High Society Wedding Gown. At number 9, we find one of the most beautiful and enchanting wedding gowns Grace Kelly ever wore throughout her film career. Designed by the legendary Helen Rose for the film High Society, this exquisite creation captivated audiences with its delicate tulle skirt, refined floral embroidery, elegant white gloves, and a sophisticated wide-brimmed hat that added an air of classic glamour. Every detail enhanced Grace's extraordinary beauty. But this gown became even more iconic because of the moment it reached audiences. When High Society premiered in 1956, Grace Kelly had already said goodbye to Hollywood to become the Princess of Monaco. Even more remarkably, the gown was created by Helen Rose, the very same designer who designed the unforgettable wedding gown Grace wore on her own royal wedding day. Watching her portray a bride on the big screen just months after becoming a real-life princess made fiction and reality seem to merge forever. That's why this gown remains not only one of the most beautiful bridal looks in cinema history, but also a symbol of the final chapter of Grace Kelly's life as a Hollywood star, and the beginning of her new life as a member of royalty. And while this dress made the world dream of a movie bride, it confirmed that Grace Kelly's elegance knew no bounds. Number 8. The black and white dress from Rear Window. At number 8, we find one of the most elegant and iconic dresses Grace Kelly ever wore during Hollywood's golden age. Created by the legendary Edith Head, this spectacular design featured a fitted black bodice with a deep, off-the-shoulder neckline and delicate short sleeves. A slim black belt defined the waist before flowing into a magnificent new-look skirt made of soft layers of chiffon and tulle. But what made this dress truly unforgettable wasn't just its breathtaking design, it was the scene that introduced it to the world. Grace steps into the dark room where Jimmy Stewart is waiting. Instead of turning on every light at once, he switches them on, one by one, slowly revealing the dress, while softly saying her full name, Lisa, 14, Fremont. 3 words, 3 lamps. Hitchcock had given Edith Head one very specific instruction. He wanted Grace to look like a Dresden porcelain figurine, something slightly untouchable. She achieved exactly that. More than 70 years later, this extraordinary gown remains one of Hollywood's greatest symbols of glamour and one of Edith Head's finest creations. And just when it seemed impossible to surpass such elegance, Grace Kelly appeared in an ethereal blue gown that would become one of the most unforgettable images of her entire career. Number 7. The blue chiffon gown from To Catch a Thief. At number 7, we find one of the most ethereal, alluring, and sophisticated gowns Grace Kelly ever wore during Hollywood's golden age. Designed by the legendary Edith Head for To Catch a Thief, this unforgettable ice blue chiffon gown became the very definition of cinematic elegance. Its delicate spaghetti straps beautifully framed Grace's shoulders, while the softly draped fitted bodice flowed gracefully into the waist, creating a silhouette that was feminine, effortless, and perfectly balanced. The flowing skirt, paired with a matching chiffon stole and coordinated accessories, seemed to dance with every breeze along the French Riviera. But the vision behind this gown was even more fascinating. Alfred Hitchcock asked Edith Head to transform Grace Kelly into an ice princess, a woman of flawless beauty, distant, mysterious, completely unattainable. The result was extraordinary. Every time Grace appeared on screen, she radiated a mesmerizing elegance that captivated audiences, and even her fellow actors. On screen, the remarkable chemistry between Grace Kelly and Cary Grant made the gown even more unforgettable, surrounding it with an atmosphere of timeless romance and refined sophistication. That is why this creation is remembered not only as one of Grace Kelly's most beautiful gowns, but as one of the defining images of Hollywood's golden age. And while this ice blue gown captured Grace Kelly's most ethereal elegance, the design waiting at number 6 would reveal her boldest and most sophisticated side. Wait! If you love royal beauty and iconic fashion, you'll love what I share on Instagram and Facebook. Scan the QR code or visit the links in the description. Number 6. The red gown from Dial M for Murder. At number 6, we find perhaps the most unexpected look of Grace Kelly's entire career. Everyone expected to see her in blue, or white, or ivory. No one expected red. Designed by Moss Mabry for Alfred Hitchcock's thriller Dial M for Murder, this spectacular scarlet gown is a masterpiece of elegance. Its refined, sweetheart neckline beautifully enhanced Grace's silhouette, while the delicate lace sleeves revealed just a hint of skin with remarkable sophistication. The full skirt added graceful movement and dramatic flair, perfectly complemented by matching red shoes and flawlessly coordinated lipstick, creating one of the most striking images of her career. But this gown captivated audiences for more than its beauty. In the film, Grace plays Margot, a woman trapped in a world of deception, suspense, and psychological tension. Hitchcock deliberately chose this vivid scarlet shade to create a powerful contrast between Grace's flawless elegance and the danger surrounding her character. The result was unforgettable. Grace Kelly's calm, poised presence, combined with the power of this extraordinary gown, created one of the most elegant and memorable images in Hitchcock's cinema. That is why this design remains one of the most beautiful gowns of her career and a true icon of 1950s glamour. And while this spectacular red gown revealed Grace Kelly's boldest side, the creation waiting at number 5 would prove that true elegance could also reach the highest expression of haute couture. Number 5. The Lanvin Castillo Evening Gown, 1956. At number 5, we find one of the most elegant gowns from Grace Kelly's royal years. Designed by Antonio Castillo for the House of Lanvin Castillo, this breathtaking white silk organza gown featured an elegant sweetheart neckline, a high waist, and a magnificent full skirt with beautifully sculpted volume. The bodice was exquisitely embroidered with silk flowers, shimmering sequins, and delicate pearls, creating an unmistakable impression of pure luxury. Grace wore this remarkable gown on the evening of April 18, 1956, at the Monaco Opera Gala, held during the celebrations leading up to her religious wedding to Prince Rainier. That evening marked a historic milestone. For the very first time, Grace made an official appearance wearing a royal tiara and royal jewels. That is why this gown represents far more than haute couture. It marks the beginning of her life as Princess of Monaco. And while this magnificent gown welcomed Grace Kelly into royalty, the creation waiting at number 4 takes us back to the unforgettable glamour of Hollywood. Number 4. The Academy Awards Gown. At number 4, we find one of the most elegant and unforgettable appearances in Academy Awards history. On March 30th, 1955, Grace Kelly stepped onto the stage of Hollywood's Pantages Theater to accept the Academy Award for Best Actress for The Country Girl. She wore a breathtaking seafoam green satin gown designed by Edith Head, paired with long white gloves, pearl earrings, and, most unexpectedly, delicate yellow roses woven into her hair. Simple, perfect, unmistakably Grace. But what Hollywood didn't know that night was that this wasn't a new gown. Grace had worn it months earlier at the New York premiere of The Country Girl, the biggest night of her career, in a gown she had already worn. At a time when Hollywood's biggest stars competed to debut the most spectacular new creations, Grace Kelly chose a dress she had already worn, and she became the most elegant woman in the room. Decades later, an ABC News poll named this gown the greatest Academy Awards dress of all time, ahead of creations by Dior, Givenchy, and Valentino. Today, it is preserved at London's Victoria and Albert Museum, the most famous Oscar gown in history. Repeated. Designed by a Hollywood costume designer. No extravagant jewels. No excess. Don't go anywhere. The top 3 are absolutely unforgettable. But first, subscribe, like this video, and share it with a fellow royal fashion lover. Number 3. The White Evening Gown from To Catch a Thief. At number 3, we find one of the most romantic and sophisticated gowns of Grace Kelly's entire career. Designed by the legendary Edith Head for To Catch a Thief, this breathtaking evening gown captivated audiences with its beautifully structured bodice, elegant sweetheart neckline, and softly draped silhouette, and a flowing chiffon skirt that seemed to float with every graceful step. But the true magic of this gown was born on the silver screen. Alfred Hitchcock's refined direction, combined with the extraordinary chemistry between Grace Kelly and Cary Grant, transformed this creation into one of the most romantic and unforgettable images in classic cinema. Their connection felt so genuine that countless moviegoers dreamed their love story would continue long after the film had ended. That enchantment turned this gown into far more than a beautiful design. It became a timeless symbol of romance and Hollywood glamour. That is why this Edith Head creation remains one of the most beautiful and iconic gowns Grace Kelly ever wore. And while this gown made the world dream, the masterpiece waiting at number 2 would embody true royal elegance. Number 2. The High Society Evening Gown. At number 2, we find one of the most breathtaking gowns Grace Kelly ever wore on screen. Designed by the legendary Helen Rose for high society, this extraordinary blue-gray chiffon gown captivated audiences with its beautifully embroidered bodice, adorned with shimmering silver flowers, and a flowing, multi-layered skirt that seemed to float with every graceful step. But this gown also carries one of Hollywood's most romantic stories. When Grace Kelly wore it during the filming of High Society, she was already engaged to Prince Rainier of Monaco. And there's a remarkable detail that very few people know. In the film, Grace is wearing her real engagement ring. Prince Rainier didn't want her appearing on screen with a prop ring, so he gave her a second engagement ring to wear during filming. By the time the movie reached theaters, Grace was already Princess of Monaco. Without realizing it, audiences were watching the final film of a Hollywood star who had already begun her new life as royalty. And while this gown became Grace Kelly's farewell to Hollywood, the masterpiece waiting at number 1 would make her a princess forever. Number 1. Grace Kelly's Royal Wedding Gown. At number 1, without question, is the most beautiful and iconic gown of Grace Kelly's entire life. Designed by the legendary Helen Rose as a wedding gift from MGM Studios, this extraordinary masterpiece was crafted by a team of about 35 seamstresses over weeks of meticulous work. To create something truly unforgettable, Helen Rose selected rare Brussels lace that was more than 125 years old, among the finest and most valuable in the world. Combined with delicate ivory silk file, more than 100 yards of silk tulle, and thousands of hand-sewn pearls, the result was a gown of unmatched elegance. On April 19, 1956, more than 30 million people watched Grace Kelly walk down the aisle of Monaco Cathedral to marry Prince Rainier III in the ceremony forever remembered as the wedding of the century. But there was one secret that no one knew. Hidden inside her right shoe, Grace carried a lucky coin, following an old bridal tradition. The secret remained undiscovered for nearly 50 years, until an X-ray revealed the surprising truth. That is why this gown didn't just change Grace Kelly's life, it changed the history of fashion forever. And fittingly, it all began with the floral dress at number 10, because this was the perfect ending to Grace Kelly's unforgettable fairy tale. Which of these gowns was your favorite? Tell me in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey through Grace Kelly's timeless elegance, subscribe for many more fascinating stories of royalty and classic glamour. And don't forget to visit my social media for even more royal stories. I'm Gisela, and this is Gisela'sStyleRoyal.